There was a third atomic bomb, assembled and waiting, and its intended target would have fundamentally reshaped the world we live in today. When the second device exploded over Nagasaki, global attention fixed on those two devastated cities. The widespread belief was that America's entire nuclear arsenal had been spent. But that assumption was dangerously incorrect. Even as the dust settled, a third nuclear core was being prepared, and President Truman was actively deciding where it would fall. The Manhattan Project was not a two-bomb operation. It was a sprawling industrial machine running at full throttle. Facilities in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Hanford, Washington, fed materials to the scientists at Los Alamos, New Mexico, who were on a relentless production schedule. A third plutonium core was not a vague plan. It was a physical object, scheduled for completion on August 19, 1945, just 10 days after Nagasaki, and more were to follow every few days after that. This was not a theoretical exercise. The Fat Man implosion mechanism was being assembled. The high explosive lenses were being tested. The machinery of atomic war had been set in motion and was accelerating. Military planners weren't just thinking about a third strike. They were mapping out a sustained bombing campaign that could extend for months. The atomic assembly line was already running. So, where was this third bomb meant to land? The original target list, carefully chosen by a special committee, included cities like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But two primary targets from that initial list, Kokura and Niigata, still remained untouched. Yet, evidence points to a far more consequential city rising to the top of the list: Tokyo. Targeting Tokyo would have been a staggering escalation. It was the absolute heart of the Japanese Empire, home to the emperor, the central government, and the military command. Destroying it with a single bomb would send an unequivocal message: nothing was sacred and no one was safe. This was a decision that weighed heavily on Truman. After Hiroshima, he expressed horror at the death toll, yet he was also gripped by the fear of a land invasion of Japan, projected to cost 1 million Allied lives. Time was a critical, pressing factor. The Soviet Union had just entered the war, and their rapid advance created a new, urgent geopolitical nightmare. Meanwhile, the Japanese government was in a state of paralysis. The Supreme Council was deadlocked between a peace faction willing to surrender if the emperor was spared, and a military faction refusing to concede. This internal stalemate meant that Japan, despite being utterly defeated, continued to fight. The authorization to use additional atomic bombs was already signed. General Henry Arnold had the green light to drop them as soon as they were ready. The Third Corps was, in fact, en route to Tinian Island, home of the 509th Composite Group. The B-29 seconds were on standby. Everything was in place for a third, cataclysmic attack. So, what stopped the clock? The intervention came from the most unexpected place: Emperor Hirohito himself. In a historic break from tradition, he directly ordered his government to surrender, breaking the deadlock. This happened just as the third bomb's core reached its Pacific base. It was an incredibly close call. Had a military coup attempt against the emperor succeeded, the bombing would have continued. The third bomb, and the fourth, and the fifth would have fallen. Instead, that third plutonium core was used in a 1946 test at Bikini Atoll. But the implications of what almost happened are profound. Had Tokyo been annihilated, killing the emperor and the entire government, the post-war occupation and reconstruction of Japan would have been impossible. The stable alliance we know today might never have formed. A single decision averted a different world. Some historians argue the bombs were unnecessary, that Japan was already beaten by a naval, a blockade, and the Soviet invasion. Others insist they were the only way to avoid a catastrophic invasion. The truth is, American leadership believed they had to maintain maximum pressure. The production schedule shows that atomic warfare was on the verge of becoming routine, a normalized, horrifying tool. Hiroshima and Nagasaki are remembered as singular events only because the surrender came in time to prevent the cascade that was to follow. The story of the third bomb is the story of a timeline we narrowly avoided. It serves as a permanent reminder of how precariously the world balanced on the edge of total annihilation in the closing days of World War II. If you found this glimpse into averted history compelling, please support the channel by hitting the like button and make sure you're subscribed to Winds of Thought for more deep dives into the pivotal moments that shaped our world.